Hello, Year 10. This is a webinar to help you with task 20 in your booklets, which you'll find on page 29. And this task is related to an extract from chapter 5, which is called The Incident of the Letter. So just to set the scene a bit here, in this part of the book, Utterson is visiting Jekyll's lab, and Jekyll seems very uneasy, almost unwell when he gets there. And he reveals to Utterson that Edward Hyde has sent him a letter. A few words and phrases you might not know that are about to pop up in this extract. The first one is feverish manner, and all that means is that Jekyll is behaving as though he has a fever or is unwell. So there's some physical signs that all is not right with him. And then a bit further down it says ruminated, and that just means to think deeply or intensely, so you might ruminate over something. After that, we've got qualm of faintness, which is a sudden or a disturbing feeling of unease, almost like a feeling of sudden panic that comes over you. And then finally, solemnly, which just means the same as sincerely or seriously. It's often associated with sadness as well. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is listen to a reading of the extract, and then I'll be back again afterwards to talk you through some of the key quotations that tell us a little bit more about how Jekyll is feeling at this point in the book.
"And now," said Mr. Utterson, as soon as Paul had left them, "you have heard the news?" The doctor shuddered. "They were crying it in the square," he said. "I heard them in my dining room." "One word," said the lawyer. "Carew was my client, but so are you, and I want to know what I am doing. You have not been mad enough to hide this fellow?" "Utterson, I swear to God," cried the doctor. "I swear to God I will never set eyes on him again. I bind my honour to you that I am done with him in this world. It is all at an end, and indeed he does not want my help. You do not know him as I do. He is safe, he is quite safe. Mark my words, he will never more be heard of." The lawyer listened gloomily. He did not like his friend's feverish manner. "You seem pretty sure of him," said he, "and for your sake I hope you may be right. If it came to a trial, your name might appear." "I am quite sure of him," replied Jekyll. "I have grounds for certainty that I cannot share with anyone. But there is one thing on which you may advise me. I have received a letter, and I am at a loss whether I should show it to the police. I should like to leave it in your hands. Utterson, you would judge wisely, I am sure. I have so great a trust in you." "You fear, I suppose, that it might lead to his detection?" asked the lawyer. "No," said the other. "I cannot say that I care what becomes of Hyde. I am quite done with him. I was thinking of my own character, which this hateful business had rather exposed." Utterson ruminated a while. He was surprised at his friend's selfishness, and yet relieved by it. "Well," said he at last, "let me see the letter." The letter was written in an odd, upright hand and signed Edward Hyde, and it signified, briefly enough, that the writer's benefactor, Dr. Jekyll, whom he had long so unworthily repaid for 1,000 generosities, need labour under no alarm for his safety, and he had means of escape on which he placed a sure dependence. The lawyer liked this letter well enough. It put a better colour on the intimacy than he had looked for, and he blamed himself for some of his past suspicions. "Have you the envelope?" he asked. "I burned it," replied Jekyll, "before I thought what I was about, but it bore no postmark. The note was handed in." "Shall I keep this and sleep upon it?" asked Utterson. "I wish you to judge me for me entirely," was the reply. "I have lost confidence in myself." "Well, I shall consider," returned the lawyer. "And now one word more. It was Hyde who dictated the terms in your will about the disappearance?" The doctor seemed seized with a qualm of faintness. He shut his mouth tight and nodded. "I knew it," said Utterson. He meant to murder you. You had a fine escape." "I have had what is far more to the purpose," returned the doctor solemnly. "I have had a lesson. Oh God, Utterson, what a lesson I have had!" And he covered his face for a moment with his hands.
Okay, I'm back, and now I'm going to talk you through some of the key quotations that you just heard, and really focus on the task here of what that extract teaches us about Jekyll and how he's feeling. So I'll just go through them in order, and you'll find these quotations just after the extract. In your booklet, there's a mind map with a picture of Jekyll in the middle and these are on the outside. So it might be worth having that open and jotting down some notes as I talk through them. So the first one, which is the extract I've put up there in blue, is Jekyll really telling us how much he trusts Utterson and giving us an insight into the relationship between the two men. He says, but there is one thing on which you may advise me. I have received a letter, and I am at a loss whether I should show it to the police. I should like to leave it in your hands, Utterson. You would judge wisely, I am sure. I have so great a trust in you. So we're kind of getting an indication here about not only the relationship between the two, but perhaps that Jekyll isn't confident of his own judgment here. He says, you would judge wisely, I am sure, as opposed to him being able to judge for himself. He doesn't have that objective view over Hyde or over his own actions, really. He isn't able to make that decision for himself, which gives us an insight into how he's feeling as well. He's unsure of himself, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there in summary. Moving down to the red quotation, Utterson asks, have you the envelope? This is just another sign of Utterson being quite methodical there. He's a bit like a detective, isn't he, the way he goes about things. Rather than asking what the content of the letter is, he goes right into, have you the envelope? Jekyll says, I burned it before I thought what I was about. So not really thinking straight there, not really thinking as logically as he perhaps would have before I thought what I was about. Almost like I didn't really know what I was doing. Almost not having control of his actions, I suppose. This purple quotation here, this third one, is really interesting for context. You might know a little bit about the idea of the Victorian gentleman and being really concerned with your public image, with sort of the good side of you that other people see. And he says here, I was thinking of my own character, which this hateful business has rather exposed, suggesting here that bad side of his character, that kind of undesirable side of his character is there. It's always been there, and this hateful business has just exposed it to kind of let people see it. So Jekyll's concerned with what other people think of him at this point. And then finally we've got that moment of despair at the end. I have had a lesson. Oh God, Utterson, what a little lesson I have had. So we've got the repetition to emphasize there, and then the head in his hands as the kind of ultimate physical sign of despair there too. I mean, it can't get more desperate than that, really. How your head being held in your hands, or your face covered with his hands. You can't almost face at what he's saying there. So lots of signs and signals there that Jekyll is uneasy. He's on edge. We've got physical signs. We've also got signs in his language too that he's starting to fall apart a little bit. The cracks are starting to show in Henry Jekyll. Hope that was helpful, and take care.